Okay, folks, here we are once again with a creaky chair. I need to be like a quality control tester of places you sit down on to see if you can make this design like squeak or complain. All right, so we have this desert rat, which is just a standard guy with an Enfield rifle. Got a little burr there. And that's where we left off last night. So this is where we're going to pick up at. Why are you being so insolent? Insolent little burr. I don't think you need this for it, but can't seem to get it any other way. Bye-bye. Bye-bye now. Okay, so we're going to do the Enfield rifle next, which is we're going to add some of this parasite brown. Parasitic brown. Oh, you know what? This is what I should be doing. Should be doing the base color. You know what? We'll make sure that we do this before I stop. Because I can't do anything until this is dry. And I'm not going to be able to paint it. And be able to draw. Well, I may be able to. I'll tell you what. I'm going to... Let's switch. Let's switch. Let's put the... No, not khaki. English uniform base. I'm all out of sorts. I've only had 1 centimeter of coffee. And then tonight I'm probably going to at least prime, airbrush the 2-pounder and the cruise. So we can get to work on that this weekend. Good morning, Marcus. Missed you last night, man. Must have spent the whole night cooking. So I finished building the 2-pounder. Finished publishing the 2-pounder video. And what else did I do? Watched more of the Crusader video, which I swear to you, I've watched 80% of it and don't remember anything. Now we're going in with a fine-tooth comb. And no, I'm not taking notes like I should, but I've gotten through a couple of engagements so far. I'm taking it really slow. And the first was, I feel like I've got a much larger understanding of it because I'm focused on doing this desert stuff at the time. Where he talks about certain units, I'm like, oh, okay, these are the guys that have all the Crusaders, or these are the guys that have all the Mark III, not the Mark IIIs, the Honeys, or so. Right now, the only thing I have seen engagement-wise in that video, Tiana was home a bit earlier, so you were cooking. See, I called it. And I got off. My late night ended up not being a late night, so I did the best thing I could. I started painting early. But, so the first engagement, tank on tank, in Crusader, was the 22nd Armored Brigade, the one with the antlers, which was on loan, not one of the two originally for the 7th Armored. Oh, and also looking at this also from the lens of, all right, if I want to build one of the tanks for one of these, what kind of markings would it have? Like, what divisional markings would it have? That sort of thing. And so the first one is the 22nd Armored Brigade running up against the Ariete Division. Without infantry support. So here you have a scenario. The 22nd Armored was all equipped with Crusaders only. Every tank was a Crusader. I'm sure they had some close support Crusaders in there as well, but all either Mark 1s or Mark 2s. I think this is the first time they were really used, so I would imagine a good majority of them were probably Mark 1s with a little turret in there against the Bersaglieri that were on defense and the Ariete Division with M1340s. And then that kind of went nowhere because they didn't bring the infantry with them. And then the next clash was 2 battalions or 2 regiments of the 4th Armored Brigade, the Honeys, against Kampfgruppe Stefan, mixing it up in the dust at point blank range. So there's a scenario right there. But I don't have any Honeys yet. And again, no infantry support. That's just simply tank on tank. And even though on the little icons he has the 4th Armored Brigade symbol, if you notice that, you look at the unit symbols, he's got all the brigade markings. I don't know that I've seen any Honeys from Operation Crusader, like models and stuff that come with a decal set that has the brigade marking on them. They usually have the armored division on them, if anything. Against the towns of Bir el Gubi, yep. It was the South Africans nearby as infantry. They had their own issues. We're not there yet, or I'm not there yet. So I literally just that's as far as I've gotten. So far, it's been tanks alone. It's been British tanks alone. But we've got 7th Armored Brigade and 7th Support Group are over there at the airfield. And I did a quick look yesterday on destroyed aircraft, because the airfield should have destroyed aircraft, access aircraft on it. And I came across an article that showed all kinds of destroyed aircraft per airfield that was overrun. And City Rizet was not one of them. I got to be careful. I'm watching a lot of his videos, and I don't want to get. I'm not a fan. I am a fan of his work. I don't necessarily agree with the way he pronounces a couple things. But I still like his content. I almost said City Rizet. I'm like, I've never heard City Rizet before. To me, it's City Rizet. Spell it differently, we'll call it City Rizet. So, really enjoying kind of picking apart the layers of the onion, The charge of the honeys, mixing it up. I've always said I should have at least 6 honeys, probably more like 9. I'm not going to go crazy buying them right now. We want some infantry. Okay. And there's a lot of paint schemes for the honeys. There's actually a lot of stuff available for that. Inspiration and so forth. Yep. Oh, yeah. City Rizet is going to be... see? There it is. I'm said it. Freaking tick. The airfield was, littered with stuff. So, I want to kind of put my hand on the pulse of, okay, it's littered with tanks for what group, But that's what I saw when I was going to get those 25-pounders. That's the 20. I remember from reading about that stuff before. You got 25-pounders from the support group at point blank range, shooting at wrecks, shooting between the wrecks and stuff like that. So, my game is extremely zoomed in. So, I don't think I need more than 9 honeys. It won't fit on the board. There's other honeys in other places. Yep. Okay. Back to the rifle, which looks extremely red now. This color looks extremely red. Obviously, we're going to mix it with stuff. So, I was hoping Ben would come on here, because Ben ended up asking me a question. We'll have to wait for him to come on his coffee break. And he was asking me a question about compressors, and it made me think I probably have enough experience with airbrush to know what I'm talking about, to do some airbrush videos as far as, equipment and what equipment I use. I said I was going to do it a while ago when I had a better idea what I was talking about. I don't want to make videos like act like I know what I'm talking about, and people are really opinionated about compressor stuff and airbrush stuff. Probably for multiple reasons, but I feel like I'm experienced enough in what's happened to me. That sounds like a bad experience. I'm experienced enough in what's happened to me to let people know what's worked for me and what hasn't. And that's coming from somebody who's not a predominantly airbrush painter. I'm not. I'm predominantly this. I'll always be this. The airbrush just took the place of everything I was using a spray can for. And then, I'm tinkering with it to, make life easy. If it's something I can do quicker with an airbrush, we'll do it with an airbrush. But if Model Master had not been eliminated by Rust-Oleum buying testers, I may not have gotten an airbrush. So thank you, corporate takeover. Because I'm not in search of a problem. There's a problem that arises, and I'm like, okay, I gotta come up with an alternate way of doing things. I'm not like, hey, let's change everything up just for the sake of changing everything up and throwing more money at a problem. That's not me. You've done good work. I was scrolling back through some of your Panzer pictures last night. I really liked the Yag Tiger. The Yag Tiger was the one that I brought the to the model meeting, and they thought it won best of show. Not that it wins anything. Not that I just do it just to bring stuff. I don't really want to even be competitive because I have a bad experience by I've too bad experience by bringing things to a painting convention. One of my figures disappeared, and the other one is, I want to be talked down to by you brought too many things to enter in this thing. Like, they wanted like one thing instead of like, 8 stands of figures. That's too many. And I just don't need that lip from anybody. You're going to give me a lip, I'm going to give it right back to you, And, it's cool that other people like my stuff. I'm more interested, I would rather, I don't need somebody saying, hey, and I'm not trying to poo-poo your comment, that, oh man, that looks great. I don't do this stuff so that people say, man, your stuff is great, and I feel better about it. I know whether I like it or not. I'm more excited when I hear a comment like, hey, you brought a bunch of figures to the meeting last time, and you motivated me to bring some of my stuff and show it off as well. I like that comment better. Because, if other people like the stuff that I do, that's all fine and well, but if I don't like it, it doesn't really matter if other people don't like it, because I'm like, I gotta impress this guy, So, anyhow, I don't know if I got my point across, but I'd rather be more motivated by like, hey, you made me get out the effort core and start painting them, or whatever, or let's build terrain together and stuff. I think that's a lot better than, people blowing smoke up my ass. There's enough things already up there. I don't need smoke too. So, but yeah, the Yag Tiger, I probably could have done the Yag Tiger without an airbrush. Because I can do camouflage without an airbrush. And now I'm okay with the airbrush because I'm not being tortured by having to clean it. It used to be like, okay, I'm going to use the airbrush for 5 minutes, and I'm going to spend 15 minutes getting it ready to spray, 5 minutes struggling with spraying it, and then 15 minutes cleaning it up. So I'm basically like 40 minutes for 5 minutes of airbrushing. That's like cooking. So, but now that's not the case. It starts right up. I'm ready to. I've gotten the basics down pretty well. It starts up every time and it cleans up easy every time. And now is when I can start looking at some pointers by, how to change the spray pattern. And I feel like I've got enough of the stuff that I need to it be second nature in my mind. I'm not worried about that stuff anymore. Now I can concentrate on the more specific things. So, this show has upped my work over the past 2 years. See, there you go. That's what we're here for. Okay, it's not to celebrate me. It's to let's knock shit out, right? And that's your purpose. You come here, so I'm like, well, I'm gonna stay and do my show so I can get things knocked out. And that doesn't work for anybody. Some people want some polished video that, oh, I only have 30 seconds to spend on this video. So, put all these little things together in little snippets and edit everything and, and make these things talk, splice all these things together so it seems like I'm interrupting myself and talking over myself because you've got somewhere to be to your Ritalin's wearing off. I mean, like that's not my kind of thing. That's too stressful. But anyways, I'm waiting for Ben to go on because Ben asked me a question, and I could tell you now, but then Ben's gonna not be here, and then I'll have to repeat it again. Which I guess I could probably repeat it again. But he asked me what kind of compressor he should get, and I had an opinion about it, and it still didn't change anything when I came across this comment that supposedly an expert, and we'll call him an experienced person, an airbrush experienced person, came up with that gave this advice to a noob that I came across a couple days ago. And what they said was, if you have a certain budget to spend on an airbrush, you need to get a compressor. But don't overspend on a compressor and then fall short on the airbrush. And when I got mine, one of the things that I saw is any cheap airbrush. Not all airbrushes are created the same, but all air compressors aren't that much different from each other. So just make sure it has a tank, it has a regulator, and just go to town with it. And that's why I did. My airbrush is it's a Hobby Lobby airbrush. There's nothing wrong with it. It's an Iwata. Actually, after I bought it, I found out that it's a lot better than I thought it was. And it's like $150. And I got it because I figured I could try it there, and if it's a piece of crap, I could return it. And it wasn't. And the airbrush and the compressor was also about $150 on Amazon. And there's lots of different brands that would work for that. They're not really brands. I bet they're all made in the same damn factory in north of Hong Kong and that province where they make everything. This program is perfect from my perspective. I mostly like the chats about the history, equipment, and also the miniatures on the market. Now, well, the history drives everything, but at the same time, it's it's my version of reenactment. Like, okay, I want to replay this or learn more about this engagement by deciphering what forces were there and playing with them and seeing what kind of decisions I can make and how everything plays into itself. But, Tick, I came across Tick because I was doing a search many years ago about close combat, and he has close combat videos, and that's what he said. He got started as a close combat player, and I don't know that he was a huge World War II buff. He came in because of the game, and the game created his interest in it, whereas mine would be the opposite. Mine's like a World War II interest, and I'm like, okay, well, how do I participate in this? So. But that's how I came across him, and he was already making history videos. So I like any videos that involve like maps and counters that are being moved around, because that's how I think, Because when I'm reading a book, that's what I'm trying to imagine. Okay, where all the counters are going. Well, this is over here. This is over here. But as far as the three tank brigades that are in the 7th Armored in Operation Crusader, the 4th has all the honeys, and I don't know how many tank regiments they have. I think it had a lot. They had a lot of that one. 4, I got it on my phone where the different groups are in that one. All the honeys, exclusively honeys, are in the 4th Armored Brigade. The 22nd, which was on loan from, I want to say the 1st Armored Division, is all Crusaders, brand new. Like they got completely refitted with Crusaders. Whether they're 1s or 2s, I don't know. Do they have the turret on little machine gun, or do they have just the hull, whatever? One of those two. All with a 2-pounder. I'm sure there were some close support ones as well. Like 1 in 10 or whatever, or maybe even less than that. And then the Seventh Armored is a mixed bag. The Seventh Armored's got some Crusaders. It's got A13s in it, and I think it's got some A9s and A10s as well. What proportion I don't remember, but it's mostly A13s and in Crusaders and A15s. And that one's sitting at City Rizet right now with a 7th support group, waiting for Germans to make a move. And that's about to happen in the video. But stuff like that's important to know, so you don't go and like, I want to build some honeys, but I want to put them with the antler symbol. You can't do that. Okay, you can't. There's none in 22nd in 22nd Armored Brigade. So if you want to build honeys, they're in the 4th. If you want to build older tanks for Crusader, they got to be in the 7th Brigade. So that's the kind of stuff that I like going through the history, and like there are some variables, but there's constants. There's things that so you got to build upon that. And you can guess other things, but don't make a massive mistake or something like that. It's not massive, but that would bug me. Don't go through all this effort of painting something and then realize, crap, I painted it wrong. If only I had known this before. But anyways, that was the advice from this particular person. They said, don't cut yourself short. I forget exactly how they worded it. Don't cut your spending short on an airbrush because of a compressor. Like, you don't need to get an AIM brand compressor. Just make sure it has a tank. Because I looked at it, somebody like recommended the compressors last night on this Facebook page, and there was a whole list of airbrush companies to avoid. Like, if they're not on this list, don't get an airbrush from them. And it's all the main lists. Iwata, the Badger, all these kind of things. Ones that you heard of. And then if they're not on that list, don't get one. And then one person recommended this one airbrush by Iwata, this one compressor by Iwata that had like some kind of weird thing, coil tube or something like that. I looked it up. It was like $500 for a compressor. Like, nah, it just maybe if mine dies. Because now I'm like, okay, I'm using the airbrush, right? I didn't want to spend a ton of money and then realize I'm only using this once a month. Now I'm basically using that on everything that I do vehicle-wise, not figures. We're not doing the airbrush for figures. So we're not using the airbrush to weather or anything like that. You ordered tech towards Tobruk, which really mixes things up. Yep. Yeah, it was a big back and forth. I'm just looking at it with a really fine-toothed comb now. Really going at it with that. And it's cool because I'm kind of enjoying it like it's a new video. But I gotta be careful on his videos. I gotta be careful with his videos, or next thing you know, I'm gonna be pronouncing it City Rizai, and I've never heard that before. Just like he says, what does he say? Ariete division. It's Ariete division. It might not be in Italian, but I'm gonna pronounce it like I don't know how to pronounce things in Italian, so I'm gonna pronounce it the Spanish way, and it would be Ariete. I like that one part where the 22nd Armored Brigade goes up against the Bersaglieri, and the Bersaglieri. Oh, that's the other thing. He calls them Bersaglieri. He calls them something else. He doesn't pronounce all the letters. Anyway, goes in the Bersaglieri to decide to surrender, and then they realize that there's no accompanying infantry, so the Bersaglieri just pick up their rifles and go back to their own lines. You know, it's shit like that. Haven't set up a North Africa scenario in a while, but but I'd like to this coming summer. Will probably be something related to Gazala. Well, what happens at Gazala? At Gazala, the Germans have Marder threes with the big long 76.2 millimeter rechambered Russian gun. They got those. They don't have too many of them. I think they got, I don't know. I'd just be guessing 8, a dozen, something like that. Those make an appearance there. A few Mark III long barrels. A few Mark IV long barrels, although I think it's definitely single digits. Low 2 digits on the Mark IIIs. So the Germans are really running, I would imagine, probably Mark IIIHs for most of it as their main battle tank. And I want to say there's a few Crusader 3s with a 6-pounder. Very low numbers. Very, very low numbers. More grants than that. And here's the other thing I found out in poking my nose around things. I thought that every tank that they had gotten was a grant. In other words, that format, but they got some Lees with Lee turrets on them as well. Not many, but they did get some. Yeah, we're going home to eat. They don't want to eat beans and toast. They found out they eat beans and toast. Like, fuck this. We're not eating that. I'd rather eat Chef Boyardee than beans and toast. Or as they called him in World War II, Chef Boyardee. Which might actually be where it comes from. I wouldn't be surprised. Chef Boyardee is supposed to be Boyardee. I've only eaten that once that I remember. We had that year that we had the hurricane, the double or triple hurricanes that we came through here, 2004. My wife had bought some, stuff to eat in case we didn't have any power. And she decided to buy some Chef Boyardee. I don't know, 4 or 5 cans or whatever. So after the storm went, we didn't use it, any of it. We're like, let's make some of this. I've never had it before in my life. MREs have got to be better. That was horrible. That was like eating ketchup bread. Ketchup bread, yeah. No, thank you. All right, fleshy bits time. can have food wars where each person commands an armor an army named by products you find in the grocery stores. You can have Colonel Boyardi versus General. What would it be for the British? Cadbury. What do they have this? What's what they have in the stores that's British to eat? I guess Cadbury. Can't think of anything else off the bat. Germans would have to be those Oots things, right? Those pretzel things or whatever they have, Oots, because they got the little umlaut on them. If you're going to have some kind of German commander, they better have an umlaut. You know, I just realized I don't remember painting his base. Wow. I'm losing my mind. It's a good thing I've never done drugs before. All my brain cells have died from natural causes. So Ron Cameron is the name of this sculptor. And I'm going to guess they're probably not alive anymore. But that's just a guess. Yeah, what I'm running into now, though, is it really kind of throws me off, is that, like on the show last night, I had two to three, or maybe sometimes even four people, like constantly all the time, and they don't say anything, and I'm like, did they just leave the TV? Did they just leave it running? Are they real people? Are they bots? Is it nefarious, folks? Yeah, you don't need to be constantly interacting with me, but it'd be kind of nice to know, hey, is there anybody there even listening? Because if they're not, then it's just kind of like, creating stuff on a WordPress site and nobody's reading it. And I've gone to a couple of those sites recently, people that have their hobby site, people that have some amazingly motivational work on them. And there's like one or two comments on everything that they do, which is only one or two comments on all the stuff that they have done. And I'm like, that's just not enough interaction. Like that's why I stopped doing the using my WordPress site, is because I don't have an idea who's even looking at it. Am I wasting my time? Because this isn't wasting my time. If nobody watches this, I still have to do this process. But going and creating pictures or something on a WordPress or Blogger, which I stopped using because of WordPress, well, because Blogger was such a pain in the butt. I don't feel a need to type a bunch of stuff out. I feel a need to talk about things and maybe, like process, whether it was a video that you saw or something like that to kind of help me understand it, through actually like regurgitating it again. But to sit there and write everything down, that's just kind of torturous for me. I'm not a writer. I don't like to type things out. There's too many little quirky errors that happen by doing that I feel like I'm being punished by writing all that stuff down, and then nobody reads it, or you don't know if somebody reads it. So that's why it doesn't really work for me. I'm gonna get this a tiny little coffee that I have. I'm gonna get another one brewing. I'll be right back. I'm almost out of coffee pods, and all that's left is the espresso. So they make this tiny little trickle. So my wife's like, "Oh," I'm like, "I can't drink that. It's just a tiny little bit." So I'll just fill it with water. You make it an Americano or whatever the hell it is that she calls it. I'm like, "How about stop with the fancy fucking names? How about a little bit of concentrated coffee with water that makes like regular coffee?" I don't care what you call it, Americano, Feliciano. It's I just need wake up juice. I'll have one of those coffee Felicianos. You can't have one of those until after Thanksgiving. man. Yeah, I don't have a need to, I don't have a need to write things down in a diary, and that's basically what WordPress is. And Blogger was just like punishing. I did that for a couple of years, and the format of Blogger is just horrible. Like, okay, I want this picture over here with this writing underneath that. Okay, go. And then it would scramble it up, and I would have to go and re-edit it. It was just, it was bad. It was really, really bad. I created new cuss words dealing with Blogger. And then WordPress came around like, oh, okay, this will work. And then people stopped. Facebook kind of took over for all that stuff. I was using the WordPress because that was a place to post pictures of my work and not have to use a hosting site. But now it's like, oh, I can just put it on Facebook. And oh, Facebook will remind me, a year ago you posted this. I mean, there's a lot of things to like about Facebook. A lot of people complain about it. It has its problems. I'd say probably the biggest gripe about Facebook is you only get to see stuff from just a select few people. So you may be missing great content on somebody that you're friends with, but because you don't interact with them frequently, you don't get to see their posts. Like there was this family friend that I have as a Facebook friend, and I hadn't heard from them in like 4 years. I'm like, are they not posting stuff? And they've been posting stuff every day, and I'm like, why don't I get their stuff? It's not like the only get your top 20 or your top 25 or what have you. Yeah, this coffee is not very strong. It looks dark enough. Yeah, I'm gonna work my way through that video, see what other kind of stuff I come across for inspiration. I actually did a search to see if somebody makes like Rex for 109s or Stukas or something like that. I have a couple of them, I'd said a long time before I'd love to do a board that is just the airfield. Or part of the airfield. Am I painting the airfield standing rifleman? I am. Yep. The classic one. Yeah, I'm kind of alternating the... This last guy we finished is one of your Australians. And we're going to do the Airfix one. So the next guy should be... I have about an equal number of both. So we're probably going to go back and forth, back and forth. I guess I should paint that Tommy gunner at some point, or one of the Tommy gunners. Oh, speaking of which, not that it's Tommy gunners. When am I going to get the other thing in the mail? They're taking their sweet time. It's only coming from Georgia, and they're taking their sweet time, like getting here. Not that I'm in a hurry. But yeah, I'm on a figure kick because, I don't want to. I went about this vehicle all wrong. Not that it's a problem, but I'm just saying that I started blacklining before. Luckily, I didn't get too far before I ended up actually finishing it all the way up with the dusting, which is what I need to do first. So whenever we go back to it, that's what we'll end up doing. And also, that green, if it's the right color, man, it's a really light color. I mean, sure, it'll turn out just fine, but it's a really light color. Purchases. Track package. Arrived Saturday. It finally departed. It finally departed. Okay. Saturday. Saturday's not terrible. Maybe Saturday evening we should be able to put that together. Or put that together. I'm not going to spoil it or anything. It's something cool. It's something I hope you don't have. No, the 25 pounders from Canada, of course, get here on fucking Saturday, on Monday. But it was better because they were originally going to get there like at the end of December, and I'm like, why does it take so long? Well, there's a Canada Post strike, and they, I ended up like, well, I'm gonna buy it anyways, not be necessarily in a hurry because like you can't find that. Like the 2 pounders, almost impossible to find. The 25 pounders with the Morris tractor, it was the only vendor that was selling them. Like nobody had them. Like I don't know what Plastic Soldier Company does. Like, well, we'll manufacture 40 kits, go all over the world, and when we're done with those 40, then we'll think about firing the factory back up. It's like, dude, like make stuff, And I don't mind a Canadian pattern truck, but I like the Morris one better. And everybody kind of convinced me I should be doing the Morris one first. And my 25 pounders aren't going to have the muzzle brakes on them because I want them for Crusader or earlier, And besides, you could have a 25 pounder that doesn't have a muzzle brake later than that. You just like they forgot to put one on one. But you can't be like, hey, they didn't use muzzle brakes until like 1942. What are you doing with one in 1940? Like hadn't even been invented yet. So it's easier to justify the other way around. And I like how they look like with a muzzle brake, but yeah, the 25 pounders don't come until Monday, which is terrible because my daughter's here. I got to work a whole fucking day. It's probably sitting here and I'm, it's burning a hole in my soul waiting for it to get here. But it's a lot better than it could have been, so. You painting that grant or you waiting for information? I'm going to see if I can't do a grant deep dive. But anyways, there was some Lees that got used too with a Lee turret, which is, in my opinion, a lot less attractive. I think the Grant turret is much more attractive. But they did get some Lees. You know, if they got like 200 of them, 30 would be Lees. So it's that kind of a proportion. You know, much rarer. You know, I just remembered something. I remembered something that I have that I got recently. I don't remember I had it because I got it so recently at one of the shows from one guy that I used to know, and then he moved away, and I don't know him anymore. What did you do to my friend? It's still me. No, you moved away, pal. And I don't know. You may have this. Lee Grant in action. And I love these books because it's like the first place you should go because everything's explained like for like normal people, you know. My first Iron Horse painting is going to be the Panzer II. I'm currently working on some BEF in the desert wreck I showed you a picture of. Grant will probably not be until late December. Well, tough. Now you motivated me. I'm looking in here. And see, I'm more likely to get one of these. And not because, but for that scenario that, you know, I described in that Tunisia one. They used one of these things. Yeah, the Grant looks so much better. British M3s. As was common with the British, they gave their version of the M3 a name, calling the vehicle the General Grant 1. The American model, which they also eventually received, was referred to as the General Lee 1. While the nickname Lee was never really used by American troops, British and Commonwealth troops normally use the name Grant when referring to the M3. The Grant was produced for the British by the Baldwin Locomotive Works, Pressed Steel Car Company, and the Pullman Standard Car Company. Okay, so we don't make any more engine stuff, make tanks. Eventually, nearly 5,000 M3s were built. That's all we know. Oh, we can do better than that. All right, I got some time to look it up then. I'm going to go through that Ghazala video, especially if you're going to do it at Ghazala. There's that one paint scheme that the Lee used that always looks really good to me. Is it's an overall sand color with like dark splotches, and around those splotches there's like a white outline. And that might have been Alamein. It might not have been a Ghazala, but I bet you money there's a unit that used them at Ghazala, and they also used them at Alamein. So you get to use double. You could do double duty if you use them for that one. Yeah, well, that book wasn't very useful. So you can see it's like I want more details than that. I mean, there's captions and stuff on each one of the pictures, but you know. But I was reading something about that tank that when it came on the scene, it could take out the Panzers at a really long range before the 50 millimeter could reach them. And I'm like, That's not a very penetrating round because it's not the 75 that's in the Sherman. It's a dumber down version, which I don't think had much AP. I don't think they carried much AP with them. But I did look at some pictures of some entrenchments that they used in the desert, and it's mostly rocks. It's very, very rocky. So I can't just make them look like dirt. There's going to be little rocks on there as well. So the wreck is where I'm going to practice doing Panzer Gray and then weathering up to the sand colors. If it looks good, I'm going to do the Panzer II that way. I think that's exactly how you should do it. Because that's exactly how I would do it. You know, no risk on that. And that would probably bother some people that would be like, why are you going to paint the whole thing gray just to paint over it? I'm like, because that's how they did the real vehicle. And it kind of looks good. I mean, I love the way this little bastard came out. You know, we're still not done with it. And it's a shame that I don't have any headlights. They broke off a long time ago. But it is what it is. You know, I'm sure there's lots of half tracks with no headlights. Battle damage is probably the first thing to break. I don't like the darker color that the Germans used around because towards the second half of the African campaign. It's more of a peachy color, so to speak. I don't really like it. But I don't really like it in illustrations. You start adding a dark wash to it, lighten it up where it gets beaten by the sand and faded, and it'll probably look okay. Yeah, and this I just grabbed one that was already gray. So this is the highlight color that they supposedly say to use for the sand. Sand gelb or whatever it's called. It's almost like an off-white. It almost has a little bit of a pink hue to it. A little bit. But it's like that can't be all that we do. You know, we gotta have more than that. So I think I'm going to paint the tactical numbers on by hand, because you can go crazy buying decals. You know, I'm not going to hand paint a jerboa. That's just not going to look good. But I'll hand paint the tactical numbers like I did on this guy. The unit, whatever it's called, the unit code. So green means junior brigade in the division. And I forget which 63 is. I want to say 63 is the whatever regiment. I think it's 62, 63, 64. Senior, the middle, and the new regiment. So this would be like the middle one. But I can just see that I painted this not that long ago. I can do better. We need to weather this thing up a little bit more. We need to, add some edges to it. I don't think this one has black lining on it. Yeah, so pin wash, I should say, pin wash. And I picked up two more rusty colors, light tone and mid brown. So got some different color drippings. But I'm not doing chipping. I don't really like the way chipping looks. You can say, oh, it is chipped. I just use the pale sand when I do the dry brush on the edges. There's your chipping. I don't like a dark chipping on the edges. Edges should be lighter than the main color of the vehicle. If it's not, then it looks weird to my eye. It like screws with it. It's like these people that say, okay, oh, you want to paint winter camouflage on like a T-34, so paint the whole thing white, and then come in and take the green base color, and then paint the green base color on the edges, and that's the where the paint is scuffed off. So what you're saying is, I know it's counterintuitive to me to want to paint there'll be more paint on the areas that technically are supposed to represent areas that have one less layer of paint. And I'm like, I just can't process that. I can't deal with that. Mentally, I can't deal with that. And I might be able to even see it because I'm looking at it through a very zoomed in lens when I'm painting without my contacts. But I don't want to put more paint on an area that's supposed to represent an area that has less paint. So yeah, I don't want to do that. But I was very, very excited to do the snow vehicles that I did. So much so that okay, let's just do desert and snow from now on. Now, I haven't tried a snow stand yet, so who knows how that'll work out. That's what I did for European British vehicles. I don't like the BEF stuff because they just weren't around very long. But I really do like these type of vehicles and the BEF colors. They look grand. With that two-tone green, it looks really good. Especially with a rhino symbol too. Yeah, I could definitely get behind that, but I do have some BEF figures that I could do. It's not like I would need to paint that many of them, to do a scenario in this. It's just, that really hasn't been my focus. Well, it's a good thing I got a short week next week because I got a long week this week. I got a 1 day weekend. And like I said, it's probably a good thing that my wife is gone because it probably rubbed me the wrong way that I'm working on Saturday and you're off. I mean, she's off, but and she's here. There's a couple of pet peeves that I have, and one of them is like you come home from work and somebody's parked and they're parked all in your driveway and you can't even park in your own driveway. Like those stuff like that. But she's going down to Miami this weekend, which I'd be doing as well if I didn't have to work on Saturday. So it saved me a trip to Miami. Woohoo! Don't have to worry about that here. What, your wife going away? Having a long. I knew it was coming. I knew it was coming, and it's like it happens. I don't know. I don't remember last time I worked on a Saturday. At least the weather will be good. It's supposed to be cold out there. Cold for Florida. I'm not saying that I like a complaint. Like I welcome it being 57 degrees. Like I'll take 57 degrees every day. Hopefully those candy asses in the office don't have the heater on. Office candy ass. Which is always my biggest gripe for, people that complain about working from home. You can keep your home at whatever temperature you feel like keeping it at. All right, we got this fleshy bits done there. I believe next is going to be the helmet. Now, I actually didn't like him too much with a dark helmet. I'm going to actually repaint Dorsey's helmet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get that, I'm going to use the brown violet base, but then I'm going to add sand to it like I did on the other one. And doesn't have to be bright, but it can be too dark for my taste. That one just didn't get painted, but regardless, oh, we'll see. We don't have to make that decision right now. The advantages of painting really really thin coats. I'm not covering up any detail. We're going to have to cut out pretty soon. The salt mines calleth. You're not big on air conditioning or heating. I have a wider temperature tolerance than most people. Well, I don't like sweating if I'm not doing anything outside, anything physical. Just sitting there and sweating, like, I'm not a fan of that. And the heater, I hate the heater. I absolutely hate the heater, always, because it dries the air out. So you start, it just, you feel sick. And like the first time I went to New York, which was like in 2003, between the waters being $5 a piece and not buying one, and the heaters being blasting everywhere, and it wasn't even that cold. It was, if I go somewhere and it's a temperature that I've experienced in Florida, that's not cold. Okay, 20-something degrees is not cold, especially in Florida, because you got beautiful. I mean, those are the most beautiful days in Florida. Is the days that are cold because there's not a single cloud in the sky. They're nice, bright, and beautiful. It's 20-something degrees. I don't want the heater on. I want to be outside and breathing in the air. But I felt absolutely terrible that trip because I got dehydrated. And I go to like the Natural History Museum, and it was like the heater was just blaring. I'm like, why is the heater blaring inside of a building that's crowded with people? Like, the people will keep each other warm, I don't understand. And when somebody comes from like, somewhere that's supposed to be, because the thing is people that are like live in Florida, oh man, I can't handle it colder than 60 degrees, Okay, I get that. Maybe you get used to it. I've never gotten used to it. I'm fine being, it'll be cold in the garage this weekend when we do some spraying. Perfect. And, that whole, you got, used to the temperature. That's never happened for me. I'm hot all the time, constantly. So, and I work at a job where I'm in and out a lot. I'm outside a lot. So I'm hot a lot. So yeah, I'm not going to complain about it being cold. And besides, you get to wear long sleeves. I love wearing long sleeves both days of the year that I can wear it. All right. Well, we will be back. We'll be back this evening to finish up this desert rat. And continuing moving forward. All right, Marcus, we will see you later tonight. Have a good day.